If you need to get your roof replaced, finding the right contractor can be a tough job, and especially if you don't know a lot about roofing. How do you know a good contractor from a bad one? Well, I want to share with you one of the most important parts of your roof that if it doesn't get replaced properly when you get your roof done, it could start leaking the day after it's installed. My name is Tyson Faulkner, owner of New Heights Roofing, and we've been installing roofs in the Inland Northwest for a little over 20 years now. And our main focus is making sure things are done right for our clients so they don't ever have to worry about their roof again. So what I'm talking about today is your wall flashings. So what are wall flashings? Well, anywhere the horizontal surface of your roof meets a vertical wall, you're going to have an issue because your shingles cover like this, and so any water that hits them is going to run off the roof, and your siding covers like this, so any water that hits your wall is going to run down. So the problem is when water goes here, if there's nothing here, it's just going to go straight into your home. So we put what we call a wall flashing in here, and in this case it would be a step flashing, and it just looks like this, and it basically goes up the siding a little bit and across the roof a little bit under the shingles, so any water that goes into that spot, it'll shed off the roof. Now you'll find wall flashings anywhere that your roof goes sideways into a wall, and that's called a sidewall. Anywhere your roof runs up and hits a wall, that's called an end wall. And you'll also find it on chimneys and skylights. So why are wall flashings so important? Well, you can see here this is a very critical part of your roof because it's not just a flat surface where a shingle can sit on it and shed the water. And so this joint here is very prone to leaks. And if the flashing is not installed correctly, this is probably one of the most common areas that we see leaks on roofs. And what's worse is when these things leak, a lot of times any exterior wall that's above the roof like that, there's an interior wall below it. And so when water leaks through this area down into that interior wall, it could be leaking into your home for months or even years without you even realizing it. And so as the water trickles in here for all this time, it can lead to things like damage to the structure and wood rot, or it can lead to insect infestations, or it can even cause things like mold and mildew to grow, which can be hazardous to your health. So if wall flashings are so important, what causes them to be installed improperly? Well, we're tearing off roofs pretty much every single day, and we've found three main ways that wall flashings get installed wrong that can cause them to leak even as soon as the day after they're installed. Number one, reusing existing wall flashings. A lot of contractors are looking for ways to save money, and so what they'll put in their contract is that they'll replace the wall flashings as needed, or they'll only replace the damaged wall flashings. And this is a great way for the contractor to save extra money because it takes a lot of time and materials to install all new wall flashings onto a home. But unfortunately, it's not very good for you, the client. So why is it a bad thing to reuse the flashings? Well, for a couple reasons. One, the flashings are 25 years old. Metal does rust, it does corrode, and it can wear out over time. And so these new flashings have to last on your new roof for another 25 years. And if they're already 25 years old, the chances of them lasting that long with no problems is fairly small. The second problem is every single one of those flashings on your current roof was installed using nails. And so they are already damaged, and depending on the installer the first time, they may have nailed too close to the wall. And so as soon as that flashing gets reused, water could start to trickle into your house right out of the gate. So the second way that we see flashings installed wrong is by installing two shingles for every one flashing. Now, I've drawn a little diagram here to kind of show what this looks like. Basically, you have your first shingle here on top of your step flashing, and you'd have your second shingle that goes on top of that, and then your next step flashing. And the problem with that is that as water comes down here and flows down the crease of this flashing, it's going to hit the top of this red shingle here, and it'll actually run under the green shingle onto your roof, and it can cause your roof to leak right there. And so the third way that we see these installed wrong is at the end wall flashing. And so basically where roof surface runs up into a wall, there's a piece of flashing on there that we call roof to wall. And this is kind of a side view of that. And so that needs to be fastened somehow because there's no shingle that goes on top of this roof to wall. And so a lot of guys will just put a nail right down through that. And so when water runs down here, it'll hit that exposed nail head and it'll actually run around that nail down into your attic. Now, some guys will put a little bit of caulking on there, but the problem with caulking is that it doesn't last forever and that it'll wear out, especially in a spot like this that's exposed to the sun. And so the other way that we see this installed wrong is that some guys will put what they call a beauty strip on top. And that's basically adding another shingle on top of the roof wall right here. And they'll nail it down through, and it'll basically be pieces of shingle that are nailed on the end, and they'll overlap each other. And so you won't see the nails from the top, but they will be there. And the problem with this is, for one, it doesn't look very good because the top here, it's very hard to get a nice clean cut to make it look real sharp at the top. And the other problem is these will catch the wind and they'll break and they'll just kind of hang down off the roof, and so they just won't look that good. But the bigger problem is that they can start to leak right away. Basically, water will run down your siding, run under this shingle that they put on there, the beauty strip, and it'll hit those nails that they use to install it, and it'll run right down around those nails into your attic. So the proper way to install the roof-to-wall flashing is with a metal roofing screw. These roofing screws are made for metal roofing applications where they're exposed to the weather for many years. And so they have a little rubber grommet on top that will seal down around that metal as it's screwed into the wood. Plus it's a screw, so it's going to hold much better than a nail will, and they're painted to match, so they look really good too. Now, in order to get all these problems fixed when you get your roof replaced, it's very important to get it in writing on the contract. We tell people that if it's not in writing, it doesn't exist. And if you have a contractor come out and promise you that he's going to fix all these things, but he's not willing to put it in writing in his contract, then you can bet that it's not going to happen. So find yourself a contractor that's going to put in writing on your contract that he's going to install all new wall flashings, and preferably have the linear footage of each type of flashing so you can see how much, that he's going to install 1 shingle per step flashing instead of 2 shingles, and that he's going to put metal roofing screws in your roof to wall. I hope this was helpful to you. If it was, please leave a like on this video. It helps us to see what information is helping people. And if you do have any questions about roofing, just leave it in a comment below and we'll get it answered in a future video.